Hello, I'm Hope Logan. I am an actor on Bold and the Beautiful, and many people really love both me and our Bold and the Beautiful drama. So I've come here to share updates about my beloved Bold and the Beautiful. Everyone, please subscribe and support me. If you do, I will keep coming every day with new updates for you. In the ever turbulent world of the Bold and the Beautiful, the balance of power at Forrester Creations is once again hanging by a fragile thread, with everything now dependent on the next move from Ridge Forrester. Steffy Forrester Finnegan is watching closely, fully expecting her father to shut down Brooke Logan Forrester and place family loyalty above all else. At the same time, Brooke Logan Forrester is pushing forward with equal determination, convinced that she deserves the co-CEO position she has set her sights on. Brooke Logan Forrester is not backing down, creating a quiet but intense corporate war beneath the surface of the fashion empire. Every decision Ridge makes carries the weight of family loyalty, ambition, and long-standing rivalry. And in this fragile moment, even a single choice could shift the entire future of Forrester Creations. If Ridge ultimately leans toward Brooke and grants her what she wants, the consequences could be explosive for Steffy. A humiliating demotion would not just damage her position, but could deeply shake her trust in the very foundation of the company she helped shape. Feeling pushed aside and betrayed, Steffy may reach a breaking point where staying at Forrester Creations no longer feels possible. In that emotional storm, the idea of walking away could transform from a distant thought into a bold, decisive action. And if that happens, she might not leave quietly. She could turn directly toward the competition, ready to make a statement of her own. In this potential shift, Steffi's frustration could evolve into something far more strategic and dangerous for her family's legacy. She may see an opportunity to align herself with Logan interests and approach Katie Logan Spencer and Bill Spencer with a surprising proposal. Katie Logan Spencer and Bill Spencer could suddenly find themselves being courted by someone who knows the fashion industry inside and out. Steffy brings not only experience, but also powerful connections that could help transform Logan into a true rival fashion powerhouse. Yet even as the idea gains momentum, uncertainty would linger in the background because past alliances in this world have never been simple or permanent. There would also be caution on both sides, especially after the complicated situation involving Eric Forrester, who once felt undervalued before stepping in to help Logan. Eric Forrester's eventual decision to return to Forrester Creations left behind lingering doubts about loyalty and long-term commitment. Eric Forrester serves as a reminder that emotional decisions in this world often shift when pressure builds, and Bill and Katie would not forget that history. They might fear that Steffy could eventually reverse course and return to Forrester once her anger cools, leaving them exposed after investing in her vision. Steffy, however, would likely insist that her intentions are firm and that she is ready to commit fully to a new partnership. In the end, Katie and Bill would find themselves standing at a crossroads, forced to weigh risk against opportunity. Everything ultimately depends on Ridge Forrester's next move and whether his decision once again places Brooke ahead of Steffy in the company hierarchy. If that happens, the emotional fallout could reshape alliances across both Forrester and Logan worlds in unexpected ways. Would Steffi's sense of betrayal push her far enough to abandon everything she has built and step into Logan territory? And if she does, would Bill and Katie truly be willing to trust her enough to form a powerful new alliance? One thing remains certain: Ridge's decision will not just decide a title or position. It could ignite a chain reaction that changes everything. As tensions continue to build inside the walls of Forrester Creations, the atmosphere around Ridge Forrester becomes increasingly heavy with expectation and pressure from both sides of his divided world. Ridge Forrester finds himself standing at the center of a storm where every choice feels like it could fracture family bonds beyond repair. On one side is Brooke, pushing forward with unwavering ambition, and on the other is Steffy, expecting loyalty and protection from a father who has always been a cornerstone in her professional life. The weight of leadership is no longer just about business. It has become deeply personal, tied to love, pride, and long-standing emotional history. As Ridge hesitates between duty and desire, the tension silently spreads through the entire company like a fault line waiting to break. And in this silence, everyone senses that something irreversible is coming. When the decision finally begins to take shape, the fallout is immediate and emotionally charged, especially for Steffy. If Ridge once again places Brooke's ambitions above hers, the impact cuts far deeper than a simple corporate setback. Steffy's disappointment transforms into something sharper, more personal, as she begins to feel erased from the very structure she helped strengthen. The humiliation of a demotion doesn't just bruise her pride, it shakes her belief in where she truly belongs. In that moment, the idea of loyalty begins to fade, replaced by a growing need to reclaim control over her own future. And as her emotions harden into resolve, the line between staying and leaving starts to disappear completely. That is when Steffi takes the first real steps towards something no one at Forrester Creations expects, an alliance that could shift the entire fashion landscape. She reaches out to Katie Logan Spencer and Bill Spencer, carrying with her not just frustration, but a bold and calculated vision of what could be built outside her family's shadow. Katie Logan, Spencer, and Bill Spencer listen carefully as Steffi outlines a future where Logan could rise into a dominant fashion force with her expertise guiding the way. The proposal is powerful, but it is also complicated, layered with emotional risk and the memory of past betrayals that still linger in everyone's mind. As Steffi speaks, it becomes clear that this is not just a reaction. It is a declaration of independence shaped by pain and ambition in equal measure. Yet even as the possibility of a new partnership grows stronger, doubts begin to surface on both sides of the table. Bill and Katie cannot ignore the history of shifting loyalties in their world, especially when they recall how quickly alliances can dissolve under emotional pressure and family influence. The shadow of Eric Forrester's past involvement with Logan looms quietly in the background, a reminder that even the most promising collaborations can unravel when trust is tested. Eric Forrester becomes an unspoken reference point in their hesitation, reinforcing the fear that Steffi's anger might not translate into long-term commitment. Still, the opportunity she presents is too significant to dismiss outright, and the idea of gaining her insight and experience is undeniably tempting. Caught between caution and ambition, they find themselves standing at the edge of a decision that could reshape their entire future. Meanwhile, back at Forrester Creations, the consequences of Ridge's choice begin to ripple outward in ways no one can fully control. Brooke's position strengthens, but so does the tension with those who feel overlooked or sidelined by her rise. The once stable balance inside the company begins to fracture into uneasy factions, each driven by loyalty, resentment, or ambition. And as whispers of Steffi's potential move spread, uncertainty grows into quiet panic about what her departure could mean for the future of the brand. In this fragile moment, nothing feels permanent anymore. Not alliances, not positions, and certainly not family unity. The only certainty left is that Ridge's decision has already set everything in motion, and there is no turning back from what comes next. As the pressure inside both Forrester Creations and the Logan Circle intensifies, the situation begins to evolve from a quiet power struggle into something far more volatile and unpredictable. Steffi Forrester Finnegan no longer sits in uncertainty. She now moves with purpose, as if every step she takes is pulling her further away from the life she once considered permanent. The emotional weight of Ridge's decision continues to echo in her mind. turning disappointment into determination and determination into a calculated sense of direction. What once felt like betrayal is now reshaping into strategy, and that shift changes everything about how she views her future. The world she built at Forrester no longer feels secure, and the idea of rewriting her place in the industry begins to feel not only possible, but necessary. And with that realization, the path forward starts to sharpen into something undeniable. At the same time, the consequences of Ridge's choice begin to ripple more visibly through Forrester Creations, where tension is no longer hidden behind professional courtesy. Ridge Forrester finds himself facing the uncomfortable reality that even a decision made with conviction can fracture the very foundation it was meant to protect. Brooke's influence within the company grows stronger, but so does the resentment from those who feel pushed aside by the shift in power. The atmosphere becomes heavier, filled with unspoken frustration and quiet resistance that threatens to erupt at any moment. Every hallway conversation carries a hint of speculation about Steffi's next move, and that uncertainty spreads like wildfire. What was once a controlled corporate environment now feels like a battlefield waiting for its next escalation. In the midst of this growing instability, the conversation between Steffy and the Logan Spencer alliance takes on a more serious and defining tone. Katie Logan Spencer and Bill Spencer begin to realize that what Steffy is offering is not just a temporary reaction to family conflict, but a full-scale shift in power dynamics. Her knowledge of high fashion, combined with her experience running a major fashion house, makes her an asset that could instantly elevate their standing in the industry. Yet even as the possibilities expand in their minds, the weight of risk remains impossible to ignore. Trust, once broken in this world, is never easily repaired, and they know that aligning with someone as emotionally tied to a rival empire carries consequences they cannot fully predict. Still, the opportunity is too large to dismiss outright, leaving them suspended between caution and ambition. Back at the center of it all, the emotional aftershocks of this unfolding situation begin to reshape relationships in subtle but irreversible ways. Eric Forrester remains a lingering reminder of how quickly loyalty can shift when pride and purpose collide, and that memory weighs heavily on everyone involved. The possibility of Steffy permanently stepping away from Forrester Creations forces the family to confront what they may lose if this fracture becomes permanent. Meanwhile, Ridge is left to navigate the growing realization that his attempt to balance competing loyalties may have instead pushed his own daughter further from his reach. Brooke's victory, if it can even be called that, comes with a cost that begins to reveal itself in unexpected ways, and as tensions tighten from every direction, the entire fashion empire stands on the edge of a transformation that no one can fully control anymore. In the final stretch of this unfolding crisis, the question is no longer just what Steffy will do, but what kind of industry will emerge from the fallout of her decision. If she commits fully to a partnership with the Logan side, the balance of power in the fashion world could shift in ways no one at Forrester Creations ever anticipated. If she hesitates, the fragile tension inside both camps may continue to build toward an even larger confrontation. Either way, Ridge's decision has already set irreversible change in motion, and every character now stands in the shadow of consequences they cannot escape. The only certainty left is that nothing in this world of fashion, family, and ambition will ever look the same again. As the fallout deepens, the world surrounding both Forrester Creations and the emerging Logan Spencer opportunity begins to feel less like a business rivalry and more like a shifting emotional landscape where every relationship is being tested under pressure. Steffy Forrester Finnegan stands at the center of that shift, no longer defined solely by her role inside her family's fashion empire, but by the weight of the decision she is now seriously considering. The idea of leaving Forrester no longer feels like a reaction. It feels like evolution, shaped by disappointment but sharpened by ambition. Every memory tied to her work there now carries a double edge, reminding her of both what she built and what she may have lost. And as she continues moving forward, the emotional distance between her and her family begins to quietly widen. What once felt like home is now becoming something she may need to outgrow. Inside Forrester Creations, the consequences of this emotional fracture begin to manifest in more visible and unsettling ways as uncertainty spreads through every level of the company. Ridge Forrester finds himself trapped in the aftermath of a decision that continues to echo far beyond its original intent, shaping reactions he can no longer control. Brooke's position may be strengthened on paper, but the atmosphere around her is anything but stable, as colleagues quietly question what this shift truly means for the company's identity. The once unified creative energy now feels divided, as if the heart of the brand is beating in two different directions at once. Ridge begins to sense that the balance he tried to maintain has not held, it has fractured. And in that realization, a deeper concern begins to grow. Whether he has unintentionally set off a chain reaction that could permanently alter everything he worked to protect. At the same time, the Logan Spencer circle becomes more engaged with the possibility of Steffy's alliance, though hesitation continues to shadow every conversation. Katie, Logan Spencer, and Bill Spencer begin weighing the opportunity not just as a business expansion, but as a potential power shift that could reshape their position in the fashion industry entirely. Steffy's experience and leadership are undeniable, and the idea of bringing someone of her caliber into their world carries undeniable strategic appeal. Yet beneath that attraction lies a persistent concern about emotional volatility and whether this partnership would be built on stability or momentary anger. Bill, in particular, recognizes the value of bold moves, but even he cannot ignore the risk of aligning with someone still emotionally tied to a rival empire. Katie, more measured, sees both the promise and the danger, understanding that trust in this world is always the most fragile currency. As these decisions loom, the emotional weight of the past begins to resurface in unexpected ways, particularly through the lingering presence of family history and previous betrayals. Eric Forrester remains a quiet but powerful reminder that even the strongest institutions are vulnerable to internal fractures when loyalty is questioned and respect is lost. His past experience with shifting alliances casts a long shadow over the current situation, reinforcing the fear that history may repeat itself in a new and more complicated form. For Steffy, that history becomes both a warning and a source of motivation, pushing her to prove that her decisions are deliberate rather than emotional. For the Logans and Spencers, it becomes a reason to hesitate even as the opportunity grows more tempting with every passing moment. In this tension between memory and ambition, trust becomes the most uncertain element of all. And as all these threads tighten, Ridge finds himself increasingly isolated within the storm he helped create, forced to confront the emotional consequences of a choice that can no longer be undone. The distance between him and Steffy grows not through confrontation, but through silence and absence, which in many ways feels even more final. Brooke's influence continues to rise, but it comes with a growing awareness that victory in this situation is not simple or clean, but layered with unintended cost. Every character now seems to be moving toward a point of no return, where decisions made in anger, pride, or strategy begin to solidify into permanent change. And as the world of fashion shifts beneath them, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. Nothing about Forrester Creations or the lives intertwined with it will ever return to the way it was before.